It looks like this guy's ex-wife ended up with a house and the kids while he got the car. Let's go inside and talk about the three options you have to make sure that you don't end up like this guy. Statistically speaking, your odds of getting in a personal injury accident are much lower than your odds of ever being in a divorce. In this country, a full 50% of the couples that are married at some point in time will either divorce or separate. And they will ask themselves this one question: do I need a divorce lawyer? Today, we're going to help you understand and answer that question. The first thing to understand about a divorce is how permanent and final it is, as governed by the document, which is the order or decree of divorce. To avoid agreeing to something you don't understand or being forced into bad terms, it is wise to hire some form of representation or counsel. People don't understand, going into divorce, how hard it is to change a divorce or a decree of divorce once it's entered by the court. In most cases in most states, it requires what's called a change, but not just a change, but a material change in material circumstances. In other words, if there hasn't been something like almost cataclysmic to change the basis upon which a divorce is actually entered, it's nearly impossible to unwind it. So it's like putting your feet in concrete. Once that concrete hardens, it's almost impossible to remove. And it's just about as tough to change a divorce once it's entered by a court. So you need to be very careful going into it to make sure you understand all the rules, all the consequences, and that you firmly agree before you approve the entry of a decree of divorce ending your marriage. Option one, go without counsel. If you and your spouse decide to divorce and want to save time and money by not hiring an attorney, it is possible to put your agreement in writing and do it yourself. There are a lot of self-help remedies out there. However, even the most agreeable couple can hit roadblocks during the settlement process. This going without counsel option is really a bad idea for lots of reasons. If parties could really sit in the same room and really agree to anything, well, they probably wouldn't be getting a divorce in the first place. The other problem is that there are so many complicating factors when you're talking about important issues in a divorce. Like when you build a family, you're talking about assets that are, earned over a lifetime, over a marriage, right? Debts that are incurred over a marriage, educational debts or loans on a house or other consumer debts like credit cards. And then there's the subject of the children and how they're going to be shared and how they're going to be paid for and cared for and what different kinds of income can be used to support those children. This is such an important act, an important decision, and an important decree at the end of the day that's very final, that you really need counsel on both sides to make sure that you know what you're doing and each party feels fairly represented. The second option, which isn't much better than the first option, which we rejected out of hand, is what people call unrepresented mediation. Some divorcing couples have tried to save money by hiring a lawyer to serve as a mediator and give advice to both sides. However, except for the most basic and simple situations, this is a bad idea because one mediator cannot objectively advise both sides in a dispute. So let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I talk about a basic or highly basic situation. That's where a couple maybe has been married for 3 months. They don't have any children and aren't expecting any. So there's no family issues to deal with, no custody issues, no support issues, right? There's no alimony to worry about, which replaces income. And they haven't bought any property and they don't have any debts. They just got married and 3 months later decided this wasn't going to work out and let's just split the sheets and go on our way. That's the situation where you might get away with just one attorney or mediator as long as they don't see conflicts of interest advising a couple and going forward without engaging a lawyer on both sides of the dispute. However, the truth is that in most cases, things are not uncomplicated. They're in fact very complicated. You have child issues, custody issues, child support issues, alimony issues, property division issues. Who gets the boat, the car, the airplane, the house? Who gets Fluffy, the dog, right? It's kind of like, I explain it to my clients like if you have a coach standing on the sideline in a football game, coaching both the offense and the defense in two separate teams. There's just no way that one lawyer in a complicated situation, in a routine situation, even in family law and divorce, can adequately represent both sides. Very early in my career, I had the opportunity to try to represent a couple in what they said was going to be a very amicable divorce between them. They didn't have any children yet, but they were expecting a child, and they were sitting in my office. And it became very clear very quickly that there was going to be a real contention in this divorce. Even though they told me that they would be able to agree to everything, it soon became clear when we talked about custody and assets and debts that there was just going to be a collision there. And it got really energized. And I immediately stood up. I said, look, this isn't working. I'm going to step away, and you both need to retain your separate counsel because I'm sensing a real conflict of interest here. It just wasn't going to work. And I felt that ethical responsibility to make sure that they were well represented. My point is that by definition, when you're in a situation where you want to get divorced, when you need to get divorced, it's not because you can get along really well. It's because you can't get along well. And you need to have each side represented firmly by good, competent counsel so that things can even out and so that the man or the woman is not taken advantage of. Which leads me to the third option, which is the best option. The third option, and by far the best option, is for each party to retain their own attorney who's knowledgeable and experienced and can carefully advise each party about what is in their best interests in the divorce, considering all circumstances. While people may hesitate to spend money on an attorney, attorneys are still the best solution for a complicated divorce. When I talk about having an attorney for both sides, sometimes a couple will think, oh, that's going to be very, very expensive. Can't we do this on our own? When each side is well educated, it goes really well because there are firm rules often set forth in statute about how all those things are to be taken care of. So actually having a lawyer on each side can facilitate a resolution of the process. And rather than going to a trial in a court where a judge has to make a decision based on arguments and evidence, many couples who are represented will then engage a third-party mediator. In fact, in most states, the courts require mediation with an independent mediator with two couples, a couple that is represented by on both sides, to actually have a third-party mediator with the advice of counsel, solve the problem for them and help them resolve all of the issues. So don't make the mistake and think that just because each side has a lawyer, which can get expensive, I understand, in such a big decision as a divorce and as complicated as it can be, that means that you're necessarily not going to resolve and settle your issues. And third-party mediation with represented counsel can help solve that problem, or if necessary, you can go all the way to a trial if there are no other solutions. So, to summarize, option one, not having a lawyer at all is very dangerous. Option two, having one lawyer represent both sides in a mediation process where you're unrepresented. Or number three, having both sides have counsel be well advised. By far the best solution is to get a good lawyer for each side and facilitate the termination of what was once a beautiful relationship, which just can't exist anymore. So when you're talking about a divorce, you're sometimes talking about houses and cars, like when we started. And obviously the person in the car in the parking lot did not have the benefit of having a good divorce lawyer advising him as he went through the process. The three options are very important. And if you have questions about how to handle your divorce, I invite you to click the link below and ask us if there's someone that can help you solve your most important problem with a divorce. And keep in mind that what I've talked about today isn't intended to be legal advice or representation until you're retained. We're retained to help you. But if you click the link below, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have and help you in this most important of decisions. Thanks for watching. I hope that what we had to say about divorce and the options is very useful to you. Hopefully you never will need a divorce. I invite you to subscribe and ring the bell so we can send you other content as we get it available. And watch this next video.